Okay. Hello everyone, and welcome to the 12 p.m. session of the virtual roundtable web conference. Today is Friday, the 16th of April 2021. In this session, we're happy to introduce a presentation called Introducing an AI-based writing application. Our speaker is John Guyett. I would like to remind you that the session is being live streamed and recorded both on YouTube and on Facebook. So we are greeting those who are listening from the streams. So welcome everyone. And John, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. And I hope you guys like the presentation. That's going to be hard to follow up that pretty awesome one about Minecraft. Mine is not so exciting, but let's take a look over here. Okay. All right, can you guys see my slide okay? Not yet?
Yours, yeah, yes.
It's okay. Okay, yeah, my name is John, and I'm actually based out of Japan, so it's about 9 p.m. over here. But thank you for having me for this really cool conference. I'm going to be introducing this AI-based writing application. It's called iKaku. And actually, you can access it right now. It's my.aikaku.app. There's the link right there if you want to get to it. It's pretty easy to type into a URL. So you could put it in to any web browser, and it's free. It's a pretty simple application, web-based application that you can use. Just a quick introduction about myself. I have a master's in education technology, and I work as a full-time English lecturer at the University of Hyogo in Japan. And I'm also a PhD student studying at the Tokyo Institute of Technology, working in this area of AI in education. So just a quick bit about the laboratory that I'm in. I'm in Cross Laboratory at the Tokyo Institute of Technology. If you're interested in the sort of the type of research or work that we do, please definitely do a Google search on Cross Lab or Cross Laboratory Tokyo Tech, and our page will come up. So you can check out the various works. We don't just work in AI in education, but we have other focuses as well. Okay. So speaking of this, about AI in education, we've seen a lot of different systems come up recently. For example, learning analytics or adaptive learning systems, intelligent tutoring systems, for example, intelligent chatbots, etc. Right now, we're working on a system that falls into this category over here, which we would call a pedagogical agent. And during my research with this about AI in education, a part of it is I'm trying to get educators' opinions about their knowledge or how they perceive the use of AI, artificial intelligence, in education. So if you have about 15 minutes or so, it would be really wonderful if you could take this survey. There's a QR code if you want to snap that and take the survey. And I could also put it in the chat real quick. There's a URL for the survey right there. It takes about 15 minutes, and anyone working in education, it'd be really fantastic to get your opinion about what you know about artificial intelligence and how it's potentially being used in education and how it maybe impacts student learning outcomes or your teaching. So let's get into what I'm working on specifically. So we know that word processors, or what students use, Microsoft Word or Google Docs or etc. We could think of those systems and the feedback that they give to students as post-process correction. So spell check or grammar check, or recently some of the newer ones like Grammarly or MS Editor. Well, they require the user, right? If you're typing a sentence in English, you type the sentence first, and then they give you feedback after you finish it. So that's termed as post-process. So you have to make the mistake, and then the software identifies the mistake, and it'll either give you a suggestion or it automatically corrects that mistake for you. But what we found in research is that giving a lot of corrective feedback to students when they're in the writing process is that you end up actually focusing on the mistake, and you focus on the struggle itself instead of focusing on what you want to write. So this is just an example over here, I think, of Google Doc, and the user is typing stuff in, it's giving spelling and grammar suggestions while you're using it. So what happens though is that, well, a writer might want to revise what they're writing during the composition process, but actually, when we think about it, that's a advanced stage in the writing process. And unfortunately, for a lot of non-native English writers, they never get to that revision stage. So they don't have the sort of cognitive resources to get to that revision stage, or to think about what they're writing and to improve their writing. Because, right, they're still struggling to come up with what they want to write. So we're terming this as AI augmented writing, or human mediated AI supported content generation. Sounds really fancy, but when I show you what it actually is, it's actually not that complicated. You've used this before. If you've used a smartphone, or even in Gmail, we've seen this come up now. It's called predictive text. So while you're typing something in, some words will pop up at the top, and you get those suggestions, and you might use those suggestions while you're writing. Here's a screen of what Gmail or Google is calling Smart Compose. I don't know if some of you have used this before, but when you're writing an email in Gmail, I think it only works in English at this point, but while you're typing it, it takes what you type and the history of actually everything you've written in your email, and it uses that to predict what you might write next. And it gives you those predictions as sort of grayed out words in the background, and you can choose that, or you could ignore it and keep going. So like I mentioned before, iKaku, we're typing it as a pedagogical agent. And a pedagogical agent is a concept that's borrowed from computer science, but we apply it to education. If you're as old as I am, you probably remember this in Windows. This little guy's called Clippy. And if you had trouble doing something in Windows, you would pop up and see if you need help. More recently, type of pedagogical agent would be a chatbot. University students use this a lot when they have a question about their classes or something. We have a question. Kaku means to write. Yeah, kaku means to write in Japanese. And AI means artificial intelligence. So recently, these chatbots have come out where students use them to get answers to questions. So iKaku, this is the system over here. And maybe I'll have a couple minutes to do a live demonstration of it as well. On the left side of the screen, you type the English, and it's really important. It actually doesn't work if you just cut and paste and dump a paragraph into it. The system only works if you're typing as a user would type, just word by word. So you're constructing a sentence. So it takes every word that you're typing in, and it learns as you're inputting more English words into it. And on the right side here, you'll get word predictions, and with a percentage point, a percentage next to it. These percentages are just predicting what the most likely next word will be. Then at the bottom of the text input, we have it defaulted to Japanese because right now we're using it a lot in research in Japan, but you could change that to your first language. It could be in any language. I think Google supports over 100 languages right now. And what's happening is while you're typing a sentence in English, it translates it translates it into your first language. So this acts as a sort of a support system for second language writers to be able to see what you're writing. So you're writing in English, and it's actually doing what the opposite of what a lot of users do, is where they write it maybe in your first language, and then you use Google Translate and you translate it into English and you submit that. But instead, what iKaku is doing is it's forcing you to write in English, and you get the support of your first language by seeing it at the bottom there, simultaneously translated. So basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to close the gap between the intended output and your known vocabulary. And there's this thing called cognitive load, where we know if you have too much load, it becomes too difficult for you to work on higher level writing. And you end up just focusing on grammatical or spelling mistakes. What we're trying to do is get students or users into this Goldilocks zone here. We're using a open source AI that's called GPT-2. And just a quick, in terms of storage size, the one I just showed you on your smartphone, those predictive text systems might be really small, something like 78 megabytes in size. The one that we're using over here, we're using the medium model, that's over a gigabyte in storage space. So actually quite difficult to put on a mobile system at this point. So again, the goal is to reduce the cognitive load of the users, to give them suggestions about what's the next word that might come out, and reduce the problem space for them. And ideally, let them become better writers. It's not all just positives, of course. There's some negatives to using an artificial intelligence system. There's cultural bias, discrimination, also issues about the ethical use of AI in the classroom. Is it cheating, or is it an unfair advantage? How much help is too much? But here is our ultimate goal, right? Is to help learners become more self-sufficient learners. Okay, and let's see if, I think that's almost my 10 minutes. Does anyone have any questions?
John, I just saw that you have put the link to a survey there. Our attendants here are supposed to answer it if they want, of course, to.
Yeah, absolutely. So please take the survey if you're interested in artificial intelligence and how it's affecting education. Yeah, please go for it.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions then?
And that's the link for the system itself.
Okay, I think we have it in the program actually. Oh, and a question from Heike. What is the ultimate goal of artificial intelligence in education?
Well, I think it'll be to help students learn better. There's probably a lot of things happening in the classroom where students are not getting the most effective teaching, or there's lots of factors, but hopefully artificial intelligence can be there to help and support students get the learning outcomes that they hope for.
Thank you, John.
Yes, I hope that I didn't
that
go
was
over
a
my
short
time.
and crisp presentation, and please make sure that you reply to his survey as well.
Thank you.
All right.